The first time the video appeared on his screen, it was past midnight, the hour when regrets grow louder and memories lose their edges. The room was dark except for the glow of the phone, and the fan hummed like it was trying to soothe him. He didn't remember clicking anything specific. It simply started playing, a shaky clip of a quiet street after rain, street lights blurring into gold halos, footsteps echoing somewhere out of frame. He almost scrolled past it, but something in the stillness held him there. The video felt unfinished, like a sentence cut off before the truth arrived. He watched until the end, which wasn't really an end at all. Just silence, just a street disappearing into darkness. He didn't know why his chest tightened. The next morning, life went on as it always did. Alarm, shower, coffee that tasted more burnt than warm. The bus ride where everyone stared into their own reflections. He worked at a small print shop wedged between a pharmacy and a closed-down bakery, the kind of place where the bell on the door rang even when the wind pushed it. His days were measured in paper cuts and toner stains, polite smiles, and the dull knowledge that he was not where he had once imagined himself to be. At lunch, he found himself searching for the video again. It had no clear title, just a string of letters and numbers, as if the creator hadn't known what to call it either. The comments were strange. Some people wrote that it made them cry without knowing why. Others said it reminded them of someone they lost. A few claimed it saved their life. He snorted softly at that, uncomfortable with the idea. How could a video of an empty street do anything like that? Still, he watched it again. That night, he dreamed of rain. In the dream, he was standing at the edge of the same street, except it was years earlier. The buildings were brighter, less worn. He could hear laughter somewhere behind him. When he turned, someone was calling his name, but the voice dissolved before he could see a face. He woke up with his heart racing and the taste of metal in his mouth, as if he'd bitten his tongue. For days after that, fragments of the dream followed him. A laugh that sounded familiar. The smell of wet asphalt. The ache of something unfinished. He told himself it was nothing. Just the mind playing tricks, stitching meaning where there was none. Then the message arrived. It came from an account with no profile picture and a username as meaningless as the video's title. The message was short. You recognized it too, didn't you? His fingers hovered over the screen. He checked the sender's history. Empty. No posts. No comments. Just this message, hanging there like a challenge. Recognized what? He typed, then deleted. He stared at the screen until it dimmed. That night, the video changed. It began the same way, the same wet street, the same streetlights. But this time, halfway through, a figure crossed the frame. Just a blur at first. Then clearer, a woman in a dark coat, hair pulled back, walking with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was going. His breath caught. He paused the video and leaned closer, as if proximity could turn pixels into certainty. It couldn't be her. It had been years, cities apart, lives rebuilt, or so he'd told himself. But his body reacted before logic could intervene. His hands trembled. His chest felt too tight for air. The comments were exploding now. People were asking who she was. Some claimed they'd seen her before in other videos that didn't exist. Others insisted she was an actress. A few wrote her name, different names, as if guessing could summon truth. He didn't comment. He couldn't. He messaged back. I don't know what you mean. The reply came almost instantly. Neither did I, at first. The conversation unfolded slowly after that, like a confession neither of them wanted to rush. The strangers said the videos appeared on their phone one night after a funeral. They couldn't remember subscribing to the channel. Couldn't remember searching for anything like it. But the street was familiar. Too familiar. It's where everything ended for me, the stranger wrote. His throat tightened. He typed, then erased, then typed again. For me too. They didn't exchange names. They didn't need to. There was an unspoken agreement, a sense that naming things might break whatever fragile bridge was forming between them. Over the following weeks, the videos kept coming. Each one added something new. A sound, a shadow, a reflection in a window. Always the same street, but in different seasons, different years. Sometimes crowded, sometimes empty, sometimes alive with possibility, sometimes hollow with loss. With each video, memories surfaced that he had buried so deeply he'd convinced himself they were gone. Her laugh, sharp and sudden, filling the small apartment they'd once shared. The way she used to stand barefoot in the kitchen, dancing while the kettle boiled. The argument that started small and grew teeth, words thrown like weapons because they both knew exactly where to aim. The night she left, rain streaking the windows, her hands shaking as she zipped her bag. "I can't stay if this is all we're going to be," she'd said. He hadn't followed her. Pride had pinned him in place. Fear had done the rest. Now, years later, a stranger on the internet was unearthing the wreckage he'd never cleaned up. One evening, the stranger sent a longer message. "I think the videos are meant to be finished. But I don't know how." "Finished how?" he wrote. "By going back." The idea hit him like cold water. Go back where? The street, the city he'd sworn he'd never return to. The life he'd failed to save. He didn't reply right away. That night, he watched the latest video again and again. At the very end, just before the screen went black, he noticed something he'd missed before. A reflection in a puddle. Two figures standing close together, distorted by ripples. His heart pounded. The next morning, he requested time off work for the following week. His manager raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Maybe she saw something in his face that warned against questions. He packed lightly. Clothes, toothbrush, the old watch she'd given him that he'd never been able to throw away. The city greeted him with the same mix of indifference and familiarity. New cafes where old ones had closed. Fresh paint over crumbling walls. But the street was still there, unchanged in the way only places heavy with memory can be. It was raining when he arrived. He stood under a flickering streetlight, water soaking through his shoes, and felt the weight of the years press down on him. Every instinct told him to turn around, to preserve the careful numbness he'd built his life on. Instead, he pulled out his phone. A new message waited. "I'm here." His breath caught. He looked around, heart racing. People passed by, umbrellas bobbing, faces blurred by rain. Then he saw her. She stood across the street, hair damp, coat too thin for the cold. She looked older, sharper somehow, but her eyes were the same. The same depth, the same questions. For a moment, neither of them moved. The years stretched between them, filled with everything they hadn't said. Then she stepped forward. "I didn't know if you'd come," she said, her voice barely louder than the rain. "I almost didn't," he replied, hating how small he sounded. They stood there, inches apart, unsure of the rules. He noticed the faint scar on her chin he didn't remember. She noticed the lines at the corners of his eyes he'd earned without her. "It was you," he said. "The messages." She nodded. "I didn't know how else to reach you." They found a small cafe nearby, warm and dim, the windows fogged with breath and secrets. They talked carefully. At first, circling the past without touching it. Work, cities, losses that sounded manageable when spoken aloud. Then the truth spilled, as it always does. "I left because I was scared," she said, staring into her cup. "Not of you, of who I was becoming." He swallowed. "I stayed because I was scared too." Silence settled between them, heavy but not hostile. "The videos," he said finally. "Why the street?" "Because it's where we stopped," she replied. And I couldn't move forward without understanding why. She told him about the nights she'd spent replaying that moment, wondering what would have happened if he'd followed her. He told her about the years he'd spent convincing himself it didn't matter. They laughed, softly, at the irony. Outside, the rain slowed. They walked back to the street together. She held up her phone, recording now, the camera steady. "What happens if we finish it?" he asked. She met his gaze. "I don't know, but I think we have to try." They stood where they had once stood apart. This time, he reached for her hand. She hesitated, just for a heartbeat, then let her fingers lace with his. The camera captured it all. The streetlight, the rain, two people choosing differently. Later, back in his hotel room, he watched the final video. The street faded into dawn. The comments filled with gratitude, confusion, relief. He closed the app. The next morning, he woke with a sense of quiet he hadn't felt in years. Not happiness exactly, not certainty, but something steadier. They met again before he left. There were no promises, no grand declarations, just honesty. "We don't have to become what we were," she said. "No," he agreed, "but we don't have to run either." When he returned home, the print shop felt smaller, but not suffocating. He started saying no to the things that drained him. Yes to the ones that scared him. Sometimes, late at night, he'd think of that street and feel the echo of rain. But it no longer hurt the same way. The videos stopped appearing.